What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Armor of God WoodWerx, and I'm finally back in the assembly room doing some stuff today. It's Friday. It's been a long week. It's been a long day. We spent most of the week going out looking at jobs and spraying some cabinets, and so everything went great. And we're just trying to finish up the week on a positive note and kind of relax. We got about 45 minutes left in the day, and we had this special order come up with this cutting board. And so we're going to go ahead and put it together, and that way it can be ready to be sanded out tomorrow. So anyways, what we're going to do, what we got is we've got 3 different species of woods for this one. We're using wing A for the dark piece, and then we got hard maple for a filler. Nothing fancy, just plain old maple. And then we got this Choctaw Viga. You can see the color difference on this side versus that side. We're going to be using this side on these smaller pieces. And then in the center, we've got this wider piece of Choctaw Viga. And if I put these on top of each other, you can see the difference. It's a beautiful piece of wood, super hard, but just the contrast of colors, using the same species, but showing a different edge of it makes complete difference in some of these cutting boards. And that's what you're looking for whenever you're doing these exotic wood cutting boards. You're displaying the wood color and the talent that you have putting these things together, because they are and can be very difficult. Maple is aggravating to rip. It's got a weird grain in it, and sometimes it'll try to pinch back on your saw and stuff like that. Even with a riving knife, I've had them try to kick back on me. So be very careful whenever you're cutting this wood, because they do have weird grains in them. Make sure you hold a lot of pressure down on the saw to the fence, and get you a good push stick and just hang on for the ride, because some of them will try to buck you out of the saw. When we get this done, we're going to glue it up real quick, let it set overnight, come back in the morning, plane it down, and start some sanding on it. It's going to have a juice slot in it, so that way any kind of meat or whatever is being cut on here, if it won't run off the edge onto the countertop. It'll get caught in that juice tray, go over there, dump it in the sink, done deal. You don't make a mess. It's great. This is an AOG cutting board, so there's only one place to get an AOG cutting board, and that's at Armor of God WoodWerx. We don't have a website. You can Facebook us or whatever. Get with us on that. But these are one of a kind, and we have access to just about any kind of exotic wood that you can imagine. We use Purple Heart, Paduk, cherry, maple, wing A, tigerwood. I mean, you name it, we can get it. So anyways, but that's what we're going to do with this. This is going to be 14 inches wide, 19 inches long, juice slot. It's going to be awesome. It's a Father's Day gift, special request, special order. So we enjoy doing stuff like that for people. I've actually already made one similar to this for this guy, for himself. But now I'm making one for his father-in-law. That's how much he liked it. It's got to be good if they come back for more. We use Titebond 3. I don't even think there's any other kind of glue to use. I mean, this is what we've always used. It is the best for holding stuff and for cleanup, and it makes your projects a lot better. I've done everything I could think of to destroy a project after we've glued it up and haven't been able to do it. It's super strong, super good, and I highly recommend the Titebond 3. Titebond makes several other different kinds of glue. They make a quick dry, they make a thick one, they make a 1 and a 2, and this one right here is waterproof. For what we do, it's perfect. You want to make sure you're waterproof whenever you're doing cutting boards, rolling pins. We make spatulas and stuff like that out of exotic wood. And you want to make sure that you're waterproof, because you don't want those things falling apart in somebody's pot of macaroni and cheese. Because I can promise you, they ain't going to be happy. And you're not going to be happy because your product failed. And you don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread a whole pile of this. I'm just going to like this, just all over the place, like I'm putting ketchup on my French fries. Got a roller. We'll roll the glue on there real nice and thick. And the more squeeze out you get, it tends to be better, because then you know that every gap in there sealed. You're not going to get any water down inside to leach inside the wood and mess it up. So you want to make sure that you got squeeze out all the way across, and it's running all over your saw bench and everything like that. Don't worry about it. You can come back later with a putty knife and scrape it all up. Or you can put down some parchment paper or whatever you want to put down to keep the, well, we've got a melamine top, so I don't really worry about the glue getting on there. I come back with a metal putty knife and just scratch it right off, or I can take an old wood chisel we have laying around and knock those hunks of glue off. We just let them dry overnight and come back in the next day and get them up. No big deal. So the first thing you want to do is not necessarily worry about gluing the piece that's up against your clamps, because once you fold everything back to it, it's going to have glue all over it. So we start out, you just want to push these kind of a little bit out of the way, and you can start with about this many. There's 7 here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip them. You just rotate them 90 degrees, every one of them, because you've already got them set up. You want to go ahead and orient them the way that you want them to be before you start gluing, and that way whenever you do your 90-degree roll and you start rolling glue, you don't come back later and say, boy, I messed that up, because once you mess it up, you know, it's hard to fix it once it dries. You can go back in and rip it and all that stuff, but it'll never be the same. Got plenty of glue in here, and don't be afraid to use it. Because just if you waste 10 cents of glue, but it keeps your $150 cutting board from coming apart, your customers will come back and they'll want more and more. And you want to make sure this stuff is just lathered on really, really well. I'm not too much concerned about, you know, going much outside of where the maple is, because the maple is determining the width of my cutting board anyways, because I pre-cut all them, and all my other pieces are just scraps that I have laying around. And that's what's really cool about this exotic wood, is you can take the scraps and make all kinds of stuff. We make business card holders, just so that, you know, if you want to display your business cards, you know, those boring little plastic ones, who's going to look at that and be like, oh man, you know, your business card has to draw your attention. But if your business card holder can draw the attention of somebody, then they'll be like, man, where did you get that from? Well, you tell them you got it from the Armor of God, and then maybe they'll call me, right? So you're advertising for me also. But you really want something cool to put your work on, because what we do is really awesome. Anybody out there doing any kind of woodwork and taking the initiative to mess with this stuff and straighten it and plane it and sand it out and make it nice and smooth for everybody. And you know, this is, God created this stuff, and you know, if God created it, it's perfect. And you know, all we can do is just take it and work with it a little bit. And thank goodness, you know, we have this talent and the ability to be able to do this kind of stuff, because we love it and we want you to love it too. And the main thing is learning something all the time, because if you're not learning, you know what I always say, if you're not learning, you're dying. And we want everybody to be able to learn and enjoy, because this is a lot of fun. It's a good stress reliever. And the thing I really like about doing these cutting boards and any of this stuff right here is most of the time people just call and say, hey, I like the color pattern you did on, and you know, they'll share a picture that I put on social media, and they'll say, hey, I like this color pattern, do me one. It doesn't have to be exactly like that, just use your imagination. And so, you know, you got the freedom to really go through and kind of, a lot of times we use it to challenge ourselves and just see what kind of designs we can come up with. You know, we follow a lot of people on social media that are into woodworking. I've been doing this all my life. Started out building houses whenever I was about 13, with my dad and my grandfather, and you know, just being in it all my life. So it's a lot of fun. We love it. It's a whole family business. You know, we're just all in it together, and it's a lot of fun. We actually started our cabinet shop back in 2019, and as Armor of God, we were Old South WoodWerx before that, and went through a life change. Armor of God fell in and stuck, and we tried to stick by the principles of what we've learned from God and Jesus Christ. And if you come in here and you don't know Jesus Christ, we will make sure that you know him before you leave. We think that's really important, that everybody knows who their Lord and Savior is, and we're not ashamed. We don't want you to be ashamed, because living right through what Christ has taught us is the way to be. And you know, the way that this world is, man, it's a sad, terrible place what our kids are having to grow up in, and it's just a shame and disgrace sometimes, man. You think back to how things are, and they don't have to be like this. You know, everybody can live in peace, but not everybody wants to, and that's a sad thing. And you know, all this, I can't understand it. But it's been like that for 2,000 years, and it probably ain't gonna change. You know, everybody kind of just hates each other, and it's just it's sad sometimes. But up here at the Armor of God, we love everybody, and we especially love woodworking, and we want you to love it too. So what I'm doing here is I'm just tightening these up. I got a couple of 2-foot pony clamps, and we buy the 3/4 frames, and we put them on black iron pipe. The black iron pipe seems to be a little bit stronger than just standard galvanized. It may be my imagination, it may not be, but all my clamps are black, so you know, we just kind of stick with it. We're also using the Grizzly A-frame. That way, whenever we set these up on our table, they're not, you know, my clamp handles aren't binding on the table or anything like that, and I've got plenty of clearance to let my glue get out. So we do have 3 4-foot Grizzly A-frames on here, and then we've got the 2 pony 2-foot clamps. Now this right here is very important. You want to make sure that you're as flat as you can be and that you're as tight as you can be, because once you leave this overnight, however you leave it is the way you're going to come back to it. And you want to make sure that you take just a little bit extra time and make sure you got that squeeze put on it, because you want these things to be nice and tight and hold up for the duration of whoever owns the cutting board. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's all glued up, and then you just pick it up like this. And so that's what we end up with. It just looks like a big old mess right now, but we'll set this down to dry, and we'll come back tomorrow and take it out of the clamps. One thing about exotic wood, whenever you get it, you want to make sure you buy exotic wood from a really good distributor. I've got a really good distributor around here. You want to make sure, you know, I can go down there and I can pick out all the boards that I want to. Ordering something from somebody and, you know, hoping that when you get it, it's, you know, high quality and good, that's okay, because I used to order stuff online and have it shipped here to the shop. But I found out that actually going down and picking out the wood I needed allowed me a lot of diversity as far as being able to decide exactly what piece was going in my project, because a lot of the grains are different, and sometimes, you know, you want your grains to kind of come to the middle like this and meet and crisscross and all that. And if you just order something online without looking at it, you never know what you're going to end up with. So take the time to go pick out your wood. Don't be afraid of the price. You know, most of the boards that you know, I just used, you know, they're $100 a piece at least, and some of them are a lot more expensive than that. But don't be scared to go out and spend the money to get this good wood and make your project like the way it's supposed to be. And always remember, put the clamps on it, put them on there tight, and make sure that you got plenty of squeeze out all across the project. Appreciate you joining us, and stay tuned, because we will do a second and third part of this. The second part will be declamping it and putting it through the planer, you know, getting it prepped and everything. And then I'll show you our juicer jig and, you know, how we put that juice slot in there. So stay tuned for part 2 and part 3. Appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for more from Armor of God WoodWerx.